a structure that's predictable and safe and helps us to grow and thrive in some way because of the what the hell is the word?
Transition?
No, the
progression?
Stability? No.
I don't know what you're saying.
It's like a really normal word. Stability.
Consistency?
Thank you. Oh my God. Now that's the bumper. Oh my God. Okay.
Ready, go.
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or therapy. Our full disclaimer can be found in the show notes. Enjoy the show. Welcome, everyone, to the Man Up Together podcast. My name is Alex Peskin, and I'm here with my lifelong friend and co-host, Bobby Jacobs. Bobby, that took me 2 times, but I got it. How you doing?
It's a good transition. I like that.
Thank you. Well done. Today we're going to talk about transitions, in case you didn't catch that one yet.
Sneak peek.
Yeah. But before we start, there was something that was interesting that came up when I was editing the last episode. I was like, we should talk about that. And I looked it up. You brought up the social network.
The movie.
The movie.
Yep, about Facebook or the
and
origins.
You were like, is that actually what it became? Like, was it good? Is it a good thing? And I was like, well, there's a sequel coming out. And I thought, and I found the name of it was The Social Reckoning.
There you go.
So I think they're kind of saying the same thing as you.
It might be a better name than social network. It's interesting. You know what else I saw about social networks? Apparently, MySpace is trying to make a comeback. So the founders
still exist.
Yeah. So you can apparently still have your MySpace. I never had a MySpace. Apparently there's something in MySpace. You have like your top 8 friends or something and you put them on there and everybody, our age group and maybe a little younger, is talking about how, I don't know if I could put 8 friends on MySpace.
We just said you have 6 or less, right?
Exactly. Right. So yeah, I think we got some social networking things coming up and to talk about. And
so I had MySpace for a little. I wasn't so active. I don't know if there was a way to be active on it, but I wasn't. There was also another thing that popped up right toward the end of high school that I was on for a little bit. It was like MySpace and Facebook. I think you'll guess who it's for. It was called Juicer.
Ooh, Juicer. Yeah.
So it was great for keeping up with my camp friends and USI friends, but
Juicer, yeah. Interesting.
I like that though, because it was like it kind of ripped off Napster.
Right. I love it. That's funny. Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you have like a screen name for Juicer?
I don't think so.
Do you remember your first AOL screen name? I think it had something to do with your camp nickname.
Yeah, it was
like DS on your birthday
DS
or something.
On my birthday. Yeah,
mine was like soccer 24/7, but soccer was taken, so I spelled it with a K and it like looked like soaker. It was the dumbest thing ever.
Nice.
I think everybody in their corporate work email now should have to include their first AOL username in their signature.
A good bout of embarrassment.
Exactly. Awesome. We'll have to have a reckoning about our social media at some point.
Yeah, I think we're in the middle of a reckoning. So again, today we're going to talk about transitions. Was that a good transition?
That was a good transition. Some transitions just need to be like, there you go. We're changing.
Yeah. There's a podcast I listen to where the host, like very specifically, it's like part of he's a comedian, like part of his personality. He has great guests on and sometimes they say something really insightful and then he stops like for 3 seconds and he's like, so you were in this movie. He's just like completely shifts to something else.
I listen to a lot of comedians and I think the magic that they have is their transitions, right? And some of them, like assumedly the guy you're talking about, his transitions are the fact that there are no transitions and that just makes it even more funny. But I think, comedians have a thing for just being able to go from joke to joke to joke, but have it seem like it's just one
That's a good point.
and coherent
how to connect
story.
Everything together. Yeah. But in life, not everything connects so seamlessly. And
often
so transitions can be tricky.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk about that a little bit. I may have transition coming up.
We're always going through transition, right?
All the kids are going back to school, so we can talk about all of that.
Football season started. I have to transition my free time.
Yeah, exactly. It's really important things.
But before we do transitions,
yes. So today
Why do I like this?
We're going to talk about maybe the opposite.
Yeah.
why do men like the status quo?
The status quo.
Yeah, I think
Love
it's
it.
maybe a little bit of a human nature thing that we prefer the way things are versus
Yeah.
change. Sure, there's lots of people out there who like change, but they're not in the majority.
That's it. So why do we like the status quo? It's safe. It feels safe. We know what to expect.
Yeah.
We know what not to expect.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's a great point because that doesn't always mean it's good.
Oh, absolutely not. I
Like,
think oftentimes the status quo is maybe not what we want, but we
it's,
feel safe.
yeah, even
Yeah.
though like we can rationally look at it and say, this is not what I want. I want something different, but it is more comfortable than trying to get to something different because I already know how it works.
Yeah.
I already know what I don't like about it. I already know what it's like to exist in this reality.
Yeah. So I remember distinctly some conversations I had with my dad before he passed. And there was a lot of things in my dad's life that my brother and I were like hopeful that we could change, right? Whether it was his physical health, his mental health, his job, all these things. And I remember a conversation where I said to him, Dad, like, what if we searched for a different job? Like, what if we did something different? And he's like, his words exactly were, yeah, but I feel comfortable here. I know this, and therefore.
But the reason you were having that conversation had to be because
it wasn't for some
good. Reason it was not a good job.
It wasn't good. It wasn't ideal. It wasn't what he wanted. It wasn't what we wanted. It wasn't what he needed. All of the things.
I know I don't like this job,
but it was a job, and it allowed him the life that he was living.
Yeah.
Again, it wasn't the life that maybe he wanted to be living, but it was the life that he was living, and therefore he didn't want to reach outside his comfort zone. He didn't want to put himself out there in a way that would make him feel uncomfortable. So I think that is a common thread for a lot of men is we feel comfort in what we know. And what we know feels safe. And what we don't know can be scary, can be intimidating, can be something that I want to reach out there and get it, but like it's foggy over there. And I don't know if I stick my hand in that hole, what's going to bite me as opposed to if I stick my hand in that hole, maybe I can pull out something that I really want. And I think to me, that's
I'm not pulling anything great out here.
Right.
But it's still scary to think.
The grass may be the grass may be greener over there, but my mowed green stuff over here is awesome. It's not awesome. It's good enough. And I know my mowed green stuff over here.
It's just what I've woken up looking at for the last however many years.
Exactly.
So,
and I think there's a lot of places that the status quo becomes something that maybe men refuse to challenge, or maybe I don't want to say refuse, but maybe men struggle with challenging, whether it's in their relationships, whether it's in their physical health, whether it's in their emotional health. I mean, I've been in the physical health place where I'm like, am I where I want to be entirely? No. But I don't want to put myself out at the gym because I don't have the time, or I don't want to hurt my back, or whatever reason that I'm giving myself is. And do we need to challenge the status quo? Is it okay to not challenge the status quo?
But why could this be good that men and a lot of humans prefer the status quo over change, transition, growth?
Go for it. You tell me. What do you think?
What could be good about it? I think maybe there's it could be too much on a spectrum that if we didn't tend toward this and maybe tended toward change, we would never put our roots down. We would never really get to a place where we can have a structure that's predictable and safe and helps us to grow and thrive in some way because of the consistency that we get from not always moving to the next thing, not always jumping. Maybe it gives us a chance to know there's something that is maybe good enough right now. If I stick to it, I can turn it into even more, and that consistency can help.
Yeah.
But there's a breaking point, I think, in everything. And so that's where it's good. Also,
I think another place that maybe existing within the status quo is a good thing is, and I'm going to think about a job for an example, or education. Maybe it allows you to really focus on something, right? Like if I'm going to stay in the status quo in my job, I may be able to become an expert in that specific area because I'm not challenged. Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing, a bad thing, or indifferent, right? Like I think
but it is something positive that can come out of that.
Exactly, right? Like if I stay in the status quo in my job and I get really, really good at whatever it is, right? So I'll give you an example, right? If I stayed in the status quo in a job and I was formulating feeds and I got really good at the math around formulating feeds, then you become an expert. in that, right? And that's a marketable skill.
True. Status quo can actually lead to growth in that way too. I like that. To the point where, like, hypothetically, could be standing in an elevator together and you get a call, you being anyone, and they ask, how much of this should the horse get? And you're like, do that thing where you like look up and calculate in your head and go, 5 mils.
I have no idea. I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no.
I was just looking. I was like, "Whoa, that was some brain work there."
A little bit of math, a little bit of
math.
But yeah, I think status quo for some reason has a negative connotation, right?
Yeah,
and I think we probably started with a negative connotation in our conversation, and I think a lot of the times it probably does have a negative outcome.
I think we think about it more as I'm stuck in inaction.
Sure.
I think that's where, why is it not a good thing?
It's
that basically it's action versus inaction that I think we're naming when we go out of our way to use the word status quo. You're just like the status quo is basically saying you're not taking action, right? In that moment, you talked about your dad, he would said, taking another action is the scary thing right now.
We call it challenging the status quo, right? And I think it's because it's an action that we need to take, right? And it's an action against this amorphous blob of what is the status quo at that point.
Thinking about some of the other examples you brought up earlier, you talked about I could start going to the gym and exercising more, but what's going to happen? Like, it's action versus inaction. No one's like, well, I do want to work out like 1 or 2 less times a week,
right?
But I'm just stuck with the status quo, so I'm not going to do that.
Can't get out of this working out 6 days a week thing and looking awesome.
It's funny. I remember my dad when things were getting pretty rough.
Just to be clear, like, this wasn't a dad episode. We had zero conversations.
Yeah, this is actually slightly funnier one.
But go ahead.
Yeah, things were getting kind of rough with the treatments he was. They were becoming less effective.
Yeah.
And we did our own research and said all the things that he should do, which he found super helpful. One of the things was like eating less sugar because cancer likes sugar.
Sure.
And what if he every morning would eat a banana and a grapefruit.
Okay.
I'm like, what if you change that for something that didn't have sugar in it? And saying this out loud now, I'm like, 2 like very healthy fruits. This is so dumb. But he's like, but that's what I do.
Can't imagine something else.
Yeah. Every day I eat a banana on my way to work. I sit down on my desk and I eat a grapefruit. What do you mean? And we were saying, and of course, again, saying this out loud, I'm like, yeah, this is dumb. We're just, I guess, trying to find something in the margins because we were panicking. But we thought we were saying to him, save your life.
Right.
Come on. And he was like, this is my life.
Yeah.
These fruits in the morning is my life.
Ridiculous concept.
Yeah. And it's so interesting to think about that.
I also got to say, it's a very Florida breakfast right there. Grapefruit and a banana.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, it could be worse. It could have been like a bowl of Reese's Puffs and something.
Honestly, I wish it was, because then it would be so much clearer.
You're going to push a little
There's
harder.
this thing you do that you have to stop doing.
I love that. All right, well, let's go to maybe why, and we obviously touched on this, but why is the status quo bad? Or, I think you get stuck, right? And you don't progress, you don't move forward, you don't grow.
Right.
Obviously, we talked about the fact that I think you can grow within the status quo, but I think at some point that growth inside the status quo does stop,
right?
Or at least it plateaus, right?
You can grow within the status quo, but usually someone is using that term against you when they're saying you are stuck.
Right.
Yes, there's consistency, predictability, but I'm not sure it's giving you anything else positive right now, where I see lots of positive on the other side of the fence there, but they're like, I might rip my pants if I jump over the fence, and I know I like these pants.
I'm a big believer in finding comfort in being uncomfortable. And I think at the base level, what we're trying to say is continue to challenge yourself every single day. There's somewhere that you can challenge yourself out of a status quo: physical health, mental health, relationship, job.
I also theoretically like the idea of being comfortable in the uncomfortable. Nice. All right.
Well, to transition.
So now enjoy 5 seconds of our transition music.
I love it. Good transition. It's good transition music.
I think so too. Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is transitions a little bit more deeply. Going to talk a little bit about what feels challenging about change, talk about maybe the early stages of transition, And then we'll talk about the third thing that I text you that I can't remember. And then that's a great one, actually.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite.
Yeah. And then we'll end by talking about what is available for us in a transition, what we do with it. Are we conforming to something, or are we maintaining a boundary? Or we'll talk more about this, of course, but that kind of thing.
Cool.
So looking forward to that. So the first thing, let's talk a little bit about transitions. Let me first say the reason that this was maybe on the top of my mind. Of course, school is starting. And so all the kids are transitioning from fun summer and going back to school. All the parents are transitioning from mayhem children to the children having structure again, which I just might be looking forward to a little bit. Also, well, that means that your wife is starting her new job at a school.
My wife is starting her new job at a new school.
Exciting
Your wife is starting a new role
She's transitioning from one position to another in her work.
And my little one is transitioning. She's going to a new school.
So is mine. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, your little one's
a lot of that.
Place. Yeah, a lot of transition.
But maybe the
bigger transition.
Maybe the biggest one and most stressful and horrible one right now, just because I'm sitting here with it having not happened yet, is my family is moving to a new home. And so
what if we rephrase this? You are completing the process of us living closer together.
Yeah.
This will be I don't know what the future holds. This will be the closest I think our families will probably live together. You're a quarter mile away from us.
We did try and do better.
We did try
4 houses. 5 houses down, and we failed that one.
For years.
So instead,
obviously, we were in St. Louis and you were in Atlanta, and then we moved to Atlanta, and now you're just taking the one little step further.
It may be a 70-second drive to get to your house now. So yes, we're moving. My wife and I moved into the home that we're in now when our first child was about 6 months old. Mm-hmm. And so 7 years ago. And it's all we know as the family of 4 and most of all of our kids' lives. And so there's some bittersweet to that. But the reason that we're moving is because of so much of our life being closer to here.
Closer to here.
Where you are. It's closer to the kids' school and all their friends and the people that we like.
I learned this the hard way when we were looking for homes when we moved to Atlanta. And we saw homes that were, closer to where you currently live or closer to here. And I said, why does it matter? They're 9 miles away. But for those that don't know Atlanta, 9 miles.
22 to 52 minutes
exactly.
is how long it takes to get
I'm
here.
excited for the move. I understand the transition that comes with the move.
Yes.
So I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. I recognize there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
It's gonna be a game changer for recording podcasts.
Absolutely.
Because for me, it's a little different for you, but for me, the podcast recording process is almost an hour longer because I have to get here and then I have to get home. Now, so that's going to knock off 58 of those minutes, and it's like nothing now. You can start setting up when I leave, and we'll both be ready at the same time now.
I love it. So as we think about the transition, I guess I want to ask you, from a therapist mindset, not from a human being mindset, because those are two different things.
Yep.
What is it about transition that scares us, that excites us? What is it about transitions that makes all those emotions kind of bubble up?
It's in your question, I think. It makes all of the emotions bubble up. Yeah. That's actually it. That consistency, structure, predictability kind of helps us know how to stay a little bit more level with what's coming our way. The emotions aren't at least the emotions about change aren't really there. I was talking to one of my neighbors this morning when they were walking their dog, and the girls want to go see the dogs for one of the last times. And she was talking about being a little bit sad about this. And that's emotion. You don't have to feel those emotions when you see your neighbors when you're walking your dog, usually.
Right.
You just, every morning, I know who I'm going to see when I go out there. And it's the cute girls who live across the street.
So
and
that's a fear of the unknown, a fear of the change. Maybe also
but just sadness. I think it doesn't even necessarily have to be that. It's just sadness of a thing that just feels comforting is changing and it's going away. And I know for me, we're doing this so we can be closer to mostly everything in our lives. The one thing we're going to be farther from is my work.
Right.
And something that I think about is in the morning, I'm going to have to be thinking about, well, how do I get to work even? Because I don't think about that now. I get in the car, I turn it on, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm in my parking spot now. I'm glad I didn't hit anyone because I don't remember paying attention. But it's just so easy when you know exactly what to expect.
That's it. It's easy, right?
Yeah.
I think that's, and I mean, think of it until you just said it, right? It's easy. And we seek out ease of life. I mean, maybe there's some people out there that seek out hardship. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
sure.
Most people seek out things that are easy. And I think for me, transition takes away. Now, it doesn't mean it takes away the ease forever, right? Eventually, you hopefully will feel the same, the exact same when you get to work. Hopefully you remember a little bit of your drive a little bit more. But I think eventually you're going to feel the same way of, okay, I got to listen to like a little bit more of that podcast than I'm otherwise, right? So
thank you for that silver lining there.
There you go. So, I mean, for me, transitions are, I'm going to be honest, they're really scary for me. So I made a big transition about a year and a half ago when I changed jobs and careers and moved across the country or halfway across the country. And for me, it was the fear of the unknown, the fear of losing the comfort that I had built within the place we lived, the family we had, the friends we had, the career that I had built. What happens if that transition doesn't go the way we want it to?
Ooh.
So right now you're seeking out a physical closeness to the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I'm going to simplify why you're moving into, there's a couple words there. But what happens if it doesn't work out the way that you hope it does? Or what happens in a relationship if that transition doesn't work out the way that you want?
I think you're verbalizing why do we like the status quo? It could be clear that you can say this is not as good as something you could do that could be better, but it could be better.
Could be better.
It also could be worse.
Yeah.
And that's where so much of it is, it's safe. I know that this is just what I can expect. What if I do go for that new job, that better job, and my boss is hellish and I can't stand it? Or I make too many mistakes learning the new job and they're like, yeah, you're not actually worth our time. And now I don't have my old job or my new job. All of these things can be true in there, which I think is maybe an important point you're making, that is some of the fear of transition.
I think one of the things we fear with transition is the fear of burnt bridges. And obviously, depending on how you make that transition can maybe define what happens with some of those bridges.
True.
Whether it's in
Friends,
a relationship,
jobs,
exactly. There's so many different places. And I know for me, that was a huge fear in changing jobs. Was I still love the people that I worked with every single day. Obviously, I know my relationship and the way that I work with those people has changed and obviously don't speak to them as frequently. But that was a big fear for me, was what happens if I do burn those bridges and I don't have those connections and those relationships anymore. And I think that's something that we fear with friendship transitions, with relationship transitions. Relationship transitions, I think, are a big one because you can transition so many ways in a relationship.
Moving into together, getting married, out of a relationship,
kids, right? There's
breaking up.
There's so many transitions, and at each of those stages, like we had talked about before, there's a status quo, there's a comfort, and hopefully the transitions that you're making in a progressive way, let's say, are ones that you can both agree upon, are ones that you can both feel comfort in moving towards. Right.
It's interesting listening to you talk about this because I'm thinking about like moving out of the first house. Like we bought the house.
Right.
And we said moving is horrible. We will never be moving out of this house.
I'm never moving out of this house.
We are done. I said it. And this transition, the second that the thought popped into my head, it's like, I'm telling my wife. I didn't think for a few days or a few weeks, would this be, I brought it to her. And the second it came out of my mouth, she said, oh my gosh, yeah, let's do that.
I love that.
And
I remember when you told me we had recorded a podcast, I could tell your brain was somewhere else. It was fine. I don't think anybody else could tell that we had recorded it. But then afterwards, like, what the hell's going on with you?
There's this thing we're going to decide to do.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of why. I am a little bit sad in like bittersweet, sad kind of way. Of, this is the house that I raised my kids in.
Absolutely.
These are the people that I know.
Even when there's so many things to be excited about, there are still so many things to be sad about.
Yeah, but I think what's interesting when you're talking about this, I'm listening to you talk and I'm saying, oh, I think I know why this is not so scary or sad for me. It's because I think in some way there's less unknown if we make the move than with staying with the status quo.
Yeah.
When we're closer to everything we know, you can say yes to more things more easily. Also, we moved out of our home, which I think there's just a lot of unknown when you're in a 45-year-old house. Like, what's the next thing you're going to have to fix?
Let's break in next week.
That's a lot of unknown in a status quo kind of experience that I was really okay with saying, you know what? I'm good. I'm going to fix up all the things I can fix up, and then I'm going to say goodbye and not find out what the next thing is that needs to be fixed.
Well, and you guys made it a home. I mean, you updated bathrooms, you updated bedrooms. I mean, I know how excited you were when you updated your master bathroom, and it's beautiful. Congrats to the people that are going to be moving.
Yep, it was awesome for less than 1 year.
But we do all these things to make our homes, our houses, our homes, or the place we live to feeling like a home. And then when the decision is to make that transition and to make that change, it's all gone. I remember when we moved out of our home, our first home in St. Louis, which was the home that we brought our first daughter to. We had obviously made her nursery, and it was our first kid. So like we had planned all the nursery things. We had the decals and all the things. And I wasn't sad moving out of that house until we left her room. And we like closed the door in her room for the last time. And I was like, oh, that was harder than I wanted it to be, right? And so I think there's little pieces and little parts in that transition. Another transition was when I went to my dad's apartment for the last time. And we closed the door, locked the door, and that was it. And
this is the last time I'm going to be somewhere that was his.
He also was. Yeah.
That's a really interesting one to think about. Another interesting thing to think about is that every time we go to talk about something new in this episode about transitions, we are talking about transitioning into another part of the transition episode. So anyways, we're getting real meta here. Talked about podcasting about podcasting, friends talking about friends, transitions about transition. So bear with us here.
We're manning up together.
That's right. All together.
It's all together.
Yeah. So we talked about what is a transition, what's scary about it, why is it good, why is it hard, all these things. Now we're going to talk about the phase of just leading up to it and just having, I guess, completed the beginning of the
preparation
transition.
Into initiation, right?
Right. And so I think that leads to two parts, right? That's I want to name it the stress and anxiety of I've decided to make this change in my life and I'm about to. And then okay, now we've done this. How do we make sure it's what we want it to be?
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, best example I can think of is this. The most preparing I've ever done for a transition was becoming a parent for the first time. So how did you prepare for that transition? How did you think about it? Did you do it alone? Were there parts of it you did alone? I don't know. I got a million questions. We'll start with any of those you want to go with.
So the one thing I could think of most is we read a book together.
Okay.
My wife and I, we heard about one particular, what do we even call it? Like modality of being a parent, strategy for having a baby, right? There's all the books, there's all of the, here's how you should do it. And we liked one and we heard about it and we're like, yeah, this sounds fine. I think probably realistically, the most valuable thing is to pick one and just try it. And maybe it gives you consistency and predictability to some extent that you can then veer off of.
At least a plan.
Yeah, right? But we did Moms on Call. And the book walks you through the things you should have in the home and this. And then
it gives you like minute by minute ways to plan your day with a newborn.
The schedule when they're this age and the schedule where they're that age. And I think that helped us because in that, okay, we've decided to have this change in our life. We decided, and it was growing in my life. We had something to calm our anxiety, not make it go away, but calm it in some way where we're able to say, we have a thing we're going to try when X, Y, or Z happens, because it says in the book, X, Y, and Z is going to happen. Here are the things you should try. And I think that was really useful for us. I also went to a dad, 2-hour course.
Yeah.
And I think that was great. We talked about lots and lots of things. I don't remember. There were two things that I remember. They're kind of the same, actually. One was he showed us pictures of what the baby's poop is going to look like from different stages, because it actually changes quite a bit. And my first thought was, I was not going to know that. And I don't know if it would have mattered that I knew it was mustard poop, and then it was this, and then it was all of that. But like, now I knew. And then also, he made us, like, drilled us with a doll and a diaper to just change a diaper like 10 times and get better and better and better. And if changing a diaper the first time was on my 0-day-old child, it probably would have come out the same, but I would have felt way more nervous. Of like, here's the moment that the reckoning here, and where I was like, okay, I know exactly what to do. You do this, and you're like, I practice this, and
front, back,
right,
yep,
right, and I think that's an interesting part of this, that I know preparation impacts the outcome of things in positive ways. But I think the most valuable thing that I can think of in change is preparation impacts the stress and anxiety level you have. I think I might know what to expect, at least to some extent, and I'm going to be okay. I think that changes everything, because then you could be a different person leading up to it.
Yeah. So to take it out of the specific example, what I'm hearing is you had a transition in your life coming up, a big one.
Mm-hmm.
You did some homework.
Yeah.
You did some work
to
say, what should I expect during and after this transition? And I really like that, because when I think about any of these types of transitions, now, obviously there's transitions that are thrust upon us that we don't have time to prepare for. I would say a lot of our transitions are either by choice or ones that are being thrust upon us that we have a little bit of time to prepare for. And I'm a big believer that your preparation and all the work that you do in the preparation makes the outcome that much easier to ingest. It may not be easy at all by any stretch of the imagination, but you said it the best. I could have changed a diaper if it was the first time I ever changed a diaper was on my newborn child in the hospital. I could have done it, but it was easier to ingest all of everything that came out. That's nice. Not coming out right.
But it sounds like, is it okay to call that you can be more present in the experience?
I like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're saying, I guess, you're like kind of saying the same thing as me, but I think in a more like trying to positive way. I'm saying less anxiety. But you're saying, well, if you have less anxiety, you have more presence. You can be here. You're not going, oh my gosh, is it going to be okay? Am I going to do it right? How do you even do this? I don't know how to do it. Where's all the wipes? You're saying you can just be there and be like, I just changed my daughter's diaper and she's okay. And I picked her up and we moved on.
And listen, there's some things we can't study for. There's some things we don't know. We're going to be different. And I'm not saying every transition we go through our life, you need to read a book for, but hey, you proposed to your wife. What was that like? Like, let's have a conversation about that, because I might be in that stage of my life,
else who's gone through it.
Right. Or, hey, you've moved before.
Oh God.
What does that look like, and how much of a giant pain in the ass is that? And so I think for me, the pre-stages of transition can help to make the transition itself, and then what comes immediately after that transition, maybe just a little more easy to accept. Again, it's not easy by any stretch. And I like the way you said you can be more present and available for the other things that come along with it. And I think for us as men, and I don't want to generalize, but for us as men, we have the responsibility to care for the new critter that wasn't there 10 minutes ago and now is. But I think we also have the responsibility and the need and the desire for most of us to care for our wives. It just went through possibly the most traumatic experience of their lives, and their physical health, their mental health, their emotional health, and all of those things. And they're leaning on us at the same time. We're all so tired. We also have little to no idea what's going on, even though mom's on call. But there's all of those things, and there's all of those emotions that maybe we can prepare just a little bit for, to, like you said,
I like that.
Allow
the
us
preparation.
To be present.
The preparation is mostly for the anxiety. And then we get to be present because we have a little bit less of it. I like that. That's what I appreciate you naming that, because that's a really
coming from a guy with anxiety. We'll make it work.
Gotta love it. Okay, so then you have the change occur. You have a child. You actually go to work for the first day. You wake up in the new house, whatever it is. What you do in that space of anxiety leading up to the change then impacts how present you can be when the change occurs. Yeah. So I like that, because I thought when we were going to talk about this, it was going to be more like, okay, let's talk about this part, then we'll talk about this part. But I think maybe now it's obvious as I'm saying this, that those are so related to each other. What you do on the way there helps you when you get there.
Yeah, I think it just allows you to deal with that change. I think there's very few periods of change in our lives that don't come with some semblance of discomfort, some semblance of
work. Action.
Yeah, exactly. And so that pre-work and everything you do leading up to it, I think it just makes it a little bit easier to handle and to manage.
I like that. And I think that's a crucial time in change and transition also, because there's so much that went into getting there, but now there's so much that's going to come out of how you handle that. Right. And so I think let's transition now into talking about that part of it. So the last thing that we're going to talk about regarding transition is what we do when we're there that can impact what comes next. Yeah. Specifically, when I think about it, I think of it as the place that I go in my head most is a new job. I'm sure this is probably exactly the same in school. I'm sure it's similar in lots of other changes as well. But I think of the two main options you have are conforming or like maintaining your self integrity, boundaries. I don't know exactly what I call the other side of that. Yeah. I talk about this a lot with clients. We talk about you teach people who you are. And that's why I think about it in a job a lot. But of course, it's got to be a school thing as well. You teach them about what you like to wear, about what time you get to work, about your personality, about all these things. But you also teach them what is okay to get away with in the other direction. You teach them how much they can put on your plate. Right. Because if your boss puts some stuff on your plate and you're like, yeah, I'm done and I do it as fast as I can. And then they put more on your plate and you're like, oh my gosh, this is becoming a lot. And they put more on your plate and you're like, I'm going to do it. And you just keep going and you just keep going and you just keep going. All you're teaching your boss is, no limits. Let's just keep throwing it on, versus saying, hey, I'm noticing with how my schedule is next week, it's going to be a lot and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get to that. I would love to be able to just pace what I've got right now. Most bosses aren't going to say, what do you mean you're not going to do this thing? They'd probably say, okay, now I understand what your ability with the caseload is here. And I think that can be really healthy, but also in the beginning of a new job, you're also saying, how can I be this as impressive as possible? The only problem with that is you got to keep that up for the rest of the job.
No, it's a good point. It's how much do we change as a person during a change, and how much do we just change our actions during a change? And I think all change gives you the opportunity. If you want to change as a person, great, let's do it. Hopefully in a positive direction.
Stay there with me for a second, because I think you're saying something important. All change gives us an opportunity.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Yeah, but I was just saying, you teach people who you are. Yeah. And so if you're in a job and you already taught them about you, it's going to be really hard to reteach them.
Absolutely.
No. I actually would like boundaries now. And I want to like show you that my plate is a little bit smaller than you think it is. Like you're saying, but you have another opportunity in the next job. You can still do the same exact thing, but that's where it's actually quite a bit easier. But
when you go through a change, there's a door that's open that allows you to change. When you're in a current job, when you're in a current relationship, and you're in the status quo, right? To go all the way back to the beginning, and you're in the status quo, I think it can be hard to remake yourself as a person or to remake a part of yourself, because that door hasn't been opened for anyone else, whether it's one person in a relationship or a lot of people in a career, to accept, like this person wants to make. I'm not saying you can't change without.
But we like status quo too. So if someone else is trying to change, we're saying, la, 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 I already know who you are. Bingo. I'm not going to process this.
Bingo, right? So I think change gives us the opportunity to remake ourselves. And again, we're not trying to say it gives us an opportunity to be fake and be a caricature of who we are and what maybe somebody wants us to be. But perhaps there's an opportunity to remake some of those boundaries.
I love that. Because I was thinking about that a little bit. Like, do you have to like decide I'm going to be a new character or something?
Yeah.
But you're saying, no, you get to like explore a different piece of you that there wasn't a lot of room to explore because of the box you might have already been in.
And maybe it was something that you didn't like about yourself, and something that you became within a current relationship or in a current job. And there's something I didn't like that about myself, right? I didn't like that I couldn't say no, or I didn't like that all I did was say no on both ends of the spectrum. And so perhaps now there's an opportunity for you to go, I didn't like that. We can address that. So I think that there's just an opportunity. Transition drives change. An example I can think of for this is someone who maybe moves to a new state or a new city or a new country for a job. And so there's a new opportunity to make a new friend group, a new
Or go to college even.
That's a great example. I think there's a lot of change that happens when people go to college.
That's true. Like also, a lot of people who grew up in military families where a parent was in the military talk about, I got to explore another part of me every 2 years because I was in a new school. And that same as what you're saying. It wasn't I had to put on a new character. It was like you get a little stuck in your box, but only a 2-year period, so you can unstuck a little bit. But college
it's like
also,
forced change. I think the college thing is a great example because oftentimes it is our first opportunity to move out of our house, to move out of a place where maybe I'm being told more of what to do, and I have this freedom to go, I don't have to be home at 10 o'clock every night. I can do whatever I want, or wait, I can just go to Publix and buy myself a cake and eat a whole cake because I want to, right?
It's all about exploring new parts of you, I guess. Yeah,
exactly. And oftentimes I would say maybe those explorations don't go to a place that end up in a positive.
And then you
learn something.
That cake isn't an every dinner food.
Every other night. There you go. So no, I love the way you said that. Like we have the opportunity to maybe think differently about how we deal with our day to day. I think with your transition and your move now, you're going to have a different amount of time that you're home in the afternoon.
And also, this kind of swallowed like in my head some other transitions
absolutely
that were important. That this is the first year since my oldest was like 1.5 that I'm not bringing anyone to school and I'm not picking anyone up from school. And so, yes, my commute is longer, I was talking about, but all of the like packing and moving stuff and all of this actually swallowed. Now I'm sitting here thinking the other thing that's going to happen in the morning and in the afternoons is I'm going to like say goodbye to everyone and that's going to be it. And then I'm going to get home and they're all going to be there or vice versa. And that's a new one.
Sorry.
Yeah,
congrats.
Yeah, there's a little sadness in that, and a little like, well, what part of me do I get to explore now? Because something's going to be a little different.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, and I think too, as you continue the transition, and we talked about it yesterday. We were at the gym playing basketball. You'll learn about this next week.
Let's not call it that.
We weren't playing basketball. You'll learn about this next week. But like I brought up, like we talked about. We want to work out more. Like with that trend. So again,
no, you talked about. I wanted to
put some numbers down. And so transition begets more transition. I think, right? Or transition begets more opportunity for change. I think all around from the beginning of the conversation, right? We have comfort and status quo. We went through fear of change, understanding how to prepare for change. What does change look like, and then what does change allow? I think.
Yeah. And I like that. I think the concise way to put together this last part also is in that what do you do with the change is intentionality and bravery are the things that are going to set you up to really make sure people know who you want them to see.
Can we add another word there?
Is it vulnerability?
Can we put some vulnerability?
It's because we haven't said that yet. But I think that word fits really nicely in bravery.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. What did you define bravery as?
Being afraid of something, but doing it anyways. Yeah. It's not brave if you weren't worried about anything, but it's
you can do something hard, but if you're not scared of it, it's not brave.
It's bravery because it was scary. And this is exactly, it's scary to say to a boss, how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
Obviously, probably say it better than that. It's scary to go to a brand new school when you're in middle school or high school. It's scary to move to a college dorm and not have anyone who's going to tell you what to do, which means also no one's going to tell you what to do. And being brave
because there's comfort in that.
Is getting out there. And I think you're so right. Getting out there and vulnerably showing people who you want them to see. So
awesome.
I like that.
Well, this is fun.
Yeah, this is good. So final transition here. I'd like to ask a question here now.
Yeah.
Just like kind of fits in what we're talking about. One of the big transition spaces that we talk about is in relationships, and something that is, I don't know if we call it gender norming or societal norm or whatever it is. In a heterosexual relationship, the man is usually the one who proposes to the woman.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying there is, would you like to decide to like make a really big change in our relationship that is going to possibly change our life? Which actually, if you think about it, when you're proposing, you're saying, let's not change our life. I want to stay with you. But, it's changing a lot of other things. But yeah, I guess what I want to ask the regular guy first here is, why is that something that we stress so much about? Whether it's, are they going to say yes? Or, ooh, that's a big commitment. Am I sure I want to do that? Or anything I might not be thinking about. What do you think there?
Go listen to the previous 40 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a change, right? We're breaking out of the status quo. I think at some point in society, there are societal expectations for when a relationship needs to, quote unquote, go to the next level.
Yeah.
Which I think is bullshit. I know some amazing couples and relationships, and they're never going to move forward in that expected progression of
right.
We're dating, we're engaged, we're married, and they're perfectly happy and they're content with it. So I think part of it is why is it scary? Well, it's just we're going to move out of the status quo, no matter how long you may have been dating that person or in a relationship with that person. And that could look differently for different relationships. You could be already living with that person.
Mm-hmm.
That transition of getting engaged could mean we're either going to move in together or we're getting one step closer towards that. I think that, again, there's comfort in the status quo, and there's discomfort in, well, what comes next. I think one of the obvious easy answers is, oh shit, what if she says no? I think that's a hard one to swallow.
Right.
Assumedly, this is something that you've talked about. I know that when I proposed to my wife, it was not the first conversation we ever had about our future.
Mm-hmm.
We had talked about this. I knew what kind of ring she wanted. She'd let me know. I knew that this was a progression that we were going to make in our lives. I also think that maybe it is the first part of that conversation for some people. And I would say that's probably pretty hard when you are surprising someone with a big decision like that, because the question of do you want to marry me is a decision that you're asking another person to make for both of you. And I think that is another place where you're vulnerable. You've put yourself out there and said, I would like to spend the rest of my life with you.
I hope
you want to join me?
Yeah.
Right? So let me know, what's your thoughts?
I like what you're bringing up, because it's helping me understand what's the thing that I maybe want to talk about here, because from the therapist perspective.
Can I stop you for 1 second?
Yeah.
Do you ever have either individuals or what, I guess it would be an individual that has ever talked to you about, I don't know, breaking HIPAA, no nothing here. Have you ever had that conversation about what to propose, but I don't know what to do? It's scary. Is that something that's come up for you?
I've even had it in couples sessions.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Where they're specifically saying it's scary to make this decision. It's scary to know what to do. It's scary. And
because it is something they talked about
more in the individual sessions, but yeah.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to know if that was something that people talk about in therapy.
Oh yeah.
It's a marriage and therapy or marriage and family counselor. Oftentimes you're later on in that progression, but it's good. I think it's a huge decision. And if you can have that conversation with a therapist as a couple before it maybe becomes a stressing point in a relationship, I think it's a great opportunity. Anyway, I derailed you completely, but go ahead.
So what Bobby's really saying is, if you're thinking about this, struggling with this, or just want to be intentional about it, go to therelationshiphouse.org and find a great therapist who you can explore this with. All jokes aside, well, maybe that's not a joke. You should go.
You should do it.
Therelationshiphouse.org. Yeah. So the thing that I think about it as a couples therapist is, I think it should be really, really rare. If you're doing it right, I think it should be really, really rare that someone says no when you propose, because this is a really big commitment. I would say change. It's not a change. It's a commitment.
Yeah.
And if you're in a healthy relationship, one that, let's say, you may want to continue for the rest of your life, I think you should be having those hard conversations together. You should be thinking about the implications of a life together with each other. And you should be making sense of what that means for you as partners. Like you said, you knew what kind of ring your wife wanted, right? You knew all of those things because it made sense in your relationship. We are kind of seeing this is a thing that we'd like to do for the rest of our lives. Let's actually have conversations that are moving us toward that. And I think with my wife, it was the same. Actually, I'll tell you a funny story. So I knew when I was going to propose to her, I had already gotten the ring. I had already ordered the ring. I'd already talked to her parents. I'd already talked to some of her friends, and we like prepared for what that night was going to be like so that she could come home at the right time and I would propose and prepare and all of this. And I had been prepping the day before and I was so stressed out and all these things. And we're sitting at dinner together and I don't know how it comes up, but she turns to me and she asks me to marry her. And I go to her, no, if you're going to propose to me, you better put some effort into that thing, because I've been doing the whole day how much effort I had been putting into actually proposing to her. She was sitting there proposing to me at the dinner table. And so I thought it was hilarious and horrible all at the same time, and a great story to tell her later on, a day later.
Right.
But so but I guess the point of that story is we were on the same page.
So I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. So I'm going to take this out of the proposal thing. So you said it shouldn't be a surprise. It should be something you've talked about. So I talk all the time with people that I work with. Your mid-year reviews and your end-of-year reviews, they shouldn't be a surprise between you and your boss.
Yes.
There should be nothing that comes up in a mid-year or an end-of-year review.
That's not a healthy relationship.
That either you or your boss didn't know about, hasn't talked about.
You should have talked about it in the moment. You should have checked in on it later. You should have gotten back on the same page. Right. I love that. And healthy relationships, for sure, like the romantic relationship in your life is the top one. But most relationships we're in, we should have that healthy, we don't have much we have to guess about each other. I love that.
And I think, obviously with a romantic relationship, back to the exact question that we're talking about here, there's a lot of what does that future look like, right? It could be everything from like, what is your career? What do your career aspirations look like? Where do you want to live when you grow up? When we grow up, we are doing this. You want to have kids? That should be a conversation.
You should know that before you choose to get married to each other. Right. And saying yes should include knowing this is a thing that we'd already kind of decided. We know I know what I'm saying yes to. I'm not just saying yes. And now let's figure out.
We're okay with the answer.
Yeah. Or I'm saying yes because I know we're on the same page, or maybe even not exactly on the same page of where we want to live.
But we know we can.
If we want to have kids, how many kids we want to have, all of that. But that's not making me say, then this isn't the right relationship. It's then we're going to figure it out because we also have some sort of experience in this relationship that tells us we're actually kind of good at figuring out hard moments. Yeah. And so, I think that if we're doing it right, I'm sorry for the overgeneralization for those it doesn't make sense for, but if we're doing it right, we should already know, which also makes me think the reason that we're nervous is because it's built in that you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think you're right. Like, this isn't just a random question. Hey, where do we go to dinner? Right? This isn't hey, what do you want for your birthday?
But in the movies, you're nervous. And other people talk about. I actually remember the night that I did propose to my wife. I had gone to get the ring at work that day, and I came back and I told one of my coworkers that I'm like, this was happening, and I'm like, I'm so nervous. And she said to me before I left, she's like, she's gonna say yes, and that was the first moment that I thought, I didn't think about that part.
Yeah,
I've not been nervous about that part for 1 second. And then I was like, oh, okay, this is good.
Yeah, part of my anxiety was ever about that.
But then I thought, like, well, then why am I nervous? Right. So I like that. That really put things into perspective for me.
I think it's a big transition, as again, to related to the episode. It's a big transition we make in our relationships.
Yeah.
If you're struggling with like, do I need to do that? Should I do that? Is that the right next step?
That means you should be having more intentional and brave conversations with your partner.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
You can surprise your partner with an awesome proposal.
But not the fact that you're proposing.
Right, exactly. Right? It's one of those, what do they say? Like, it's not the if, but the when, or however you want to say that. Like, the if for sure we know that's going to come. Maybe the when should be the surprising part. I love the way that you said that. I love that that's something that people do talk about in therapy.
Yes.
Because I think it's important, and perhaps it's something that I really wish I had the opportunity to have that conversation about, with someone completely separate from, because I could talk to you about it, or I could talk to, Brian or any of my other friends or my parents or her parents or any of that. There's a level of like, however you want to say it, like on somebody's team, like I know that you would have been straight with me if you would have been like, "Oh, she's not the one. Don't do this."
No,
I know that you would have said that, but also you probably would have been like, "Well, if it makes you happy, do it." And
right, but the way I would have said it would have said something to you that wasn't like I'm truly exploring this.
Exactly. So anyway, I like it. That was fun.
Good stuff. Yeah, so this was interesting because of what's going on in my and our lives right now. I think also made me start to think about things a little bit differently, especially regarding like what does it mean to have a healthy and open relationship, and to not that open relationship thing that I'm talking about, but the other kind. But just the way to be thinking about what we want people to know about us and why. And so that's cool. And so I hope that I am intentional about how I go through this transition in my life now.
Well, if there's anything that I know about change, is that the only constant in our lives is change. At some level, we're always going forward. If you're going through a change, if you're going through a transition, if you're preparing for a transition, let's talk about it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it'd be great to hear about some of those transitions that you maybe have or that you're going through. So email us questions@manuptogetherpodcast.com. Find us on Instagram, Man Up Together Podcast. Comment on YouTube, like, subscribe, share with a friend, send us a carrier pigeon. I don't care. However you want to do it. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate you going through this change as we continue to change ourselves
for sure
on this podcast journey.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening, everybody, and we will look forward to seeing you next week when we continue to try and man up together. Man Up Together podcast was produced and edited by Alex Peskin and Bobby Jacobs. Special thank you to our wives, family, friends, and coworkers who have supported us in so many ways throughout this process. You can find us on Instagram at Man Up Together Podcast, and you can email us at questions@manuptogetherpodcast.com. If you are interested in joining us on this journey, please like, subscribe, and share this with someone you care about. Thank you for listening. See you next week.